Welcome back to Branscombe Chime. We have a second guest here on the deck chair, and I have to say it was one of the people I wanted to get from the very start when we kind of created Off the Lip. Arguably the most famous British Isles big wave surfer that any of you know. In 2012, he towed his partner, Garrett McNamara, into what has been recognised by the Guinness Book of Records as the biggest wave ever ridden. And I think it still will be, but they are destined to try and beat that. He's a Salt Rock ambassador and he's an absolute legend. You all know him. Welcome to Off the Lip. Cotty, it's great to have you.
Mate.
So, we're here down at Branscombe Chime, and you are acting as an incredible ambassador for Salt Rock with our Para Roadshow. There has been 5 already, complete newbies who have never surfed before in their life, and you've been out assisting it. How's it been so far for you today?
It's been cool, man. It's really good to help out today. You know, with the roadshow and get people in the water and see. Well, it's like, you know, the guys sharing their passion and their knowledge, but also just seeing how it, you know, it affects people and how people love it, you know. And actually, we surfed. I've completely forgot. Jasmine was the girl that we just took surfing, and she'd never been in caught waves before, and without like 3 or 4 waves, she was flying along the line, like a couple of wipeouts, but some huge smiles. So it's really good to share that.
So many of the people that have come down today have had accidents which have created the kind of disability that they have. So some of them were able-bodied before that, and many of them have never surfed before.
Yeah.
This could be their kind of first time of following a career in surfing for the future, like we've spoken with Zoe Smith earlier in the episode before this. I'd love to find out, Andrew, where your surfing first started.
My surfing first started. I grew up in North Devon. So my surfing first started at Saunton Sands when I was like 7 or 8. My dad hired me a wetsuit and a surfboard, and then sort of sent me into the sea, sat in the car and read the paper while I like got smashed around. I think it was like Easter time, it was freezing cold. I don't think he ever thought I'd go. I think he thought that would be enough to put me off for life, but it was the other way around. It's sort of like it sort of just lit a fire, and I think then I hassled him to buy me a board, and then it just escalated from there.
Sometimes when you're thrown in the deep end, like you described there, you're developing that grit and determination without perhaps being mothered and mollycoddled, which is some other surfing parents are with their kids. You were kind of just left to fend for yourself.
Yeah.
Has that kind of transpired into having that kind of self-motivated passion to go where you have gone in your career?
I don't know, really. Like, I think for me, like, I love swimming. I had really bad asthma and stuff as a kid, so like, I was always sort of. I think the doctors told my parents to get me into swimming, into water sports, and so I swam from a young age. But like at school and stuff, I was just terrible at team sports, and obviously, like at school, football's massive, rugby's massive, cricket's massive, and I was just so bad at those sports, and I hated it. And I think surfing for me was just like, it was a breath of fresh air. Like, there was no rules, and there's no one telling you what to do. There's no one telling you it was a foul, or it was half time, or I don't know. Like, it was just like you just make it up.
Yeah.
And that really sort of really appealed to me at that sort of time in my life.
Connected to you.
Yeah.
So we go from Saunton, as you described, a classic longboarders kind of paradise. It's a mellow, fat, kind of like peeling slow wave.
Yeah.
How did you transition to riding some of the most gigantic waves on this planet? Where did that come from?
You know, we have Croyd next door, which is the waves get a bit heavier and a bit bigger, but the dream was always to be a professional surfer and a contest surfer. It was just I wasn't really good at it. And when I left school, like 15, 16, I knew I didn't want to go to college because I just hated school. And I wanted to be a professional surfer, but you know, how do you become a professional surfer? Like, you know, you do contests, but if you're not good at doing contests, like what do you do? You know, and I ended up working in a surfboard factory called Gulfstream in Woolacombe, and part of working there is that we surfed a lot, so it was like being a professional surfer. And when I was with those guys, we also travelled a lot and did a few trips to I did my first trip to like Hawaii when I was probably 17, 18. And I think it was there where like I sort of realised that within in surfing, which is like super niche and sort of very, especially coming from UK and the contest scene, it's like small wave focused. That I sort of my ability was more in like bigger waves, like going straight was my power.
Don't put
like,
it on rail, just go straight.
Yeah.
I think you do yourself an injustice. I've seen you shred when it's small. And while we're talking about small, I always wonder with people like yourself, big wave surfers, like, Shane Dorian and those guys, when it's 2 foot, do you still get the buzz from surfing in a kind of summery small day as you would do with gigantic waves at Nazare?
Yeah. Like it's surfing, like, and I think if you get like a good wave and it flows and you do some nice turns and like, yeah, of course you get a buzz, like.
So it isn't that your kind of like quest for adrenaline that comes from some of those gigantic waves has almost numbed down those small waves, which I feel is really nice to hear, because I want to be able to feel happy surfing all the waves I surf, and I wondered with big wave surfers whether it takes that away, but you're saying it doesn't, and I love that.
No,
Yeah.
I don't think it does. I think at the end of the day, it's just being in the ocean and riding waves is where it's at. It doesn't like no matter how you
Doesn't matter what you
ride.
ride. Yeah. Well, I wanted to know, in terms of waves that you've ridden, have you ever had the chance to get out to Jaws?
Yeah, surfed Jaws a few times.
So have you ever jumped off the rocks there, or have you normally come round with the ski?
Not the ski. No, we had like back in like 2015, 16. There was obviously the big wave paddle tour.
Yeah.
And obviously the goal was always to be on the tour, to be on the paddle tour, and so to do that, you were sort of supposed to be trying to hit like all the big wave spots, paddle spots, So I sort of pursued that sort of goal for quite a few years. We paddled Jaws a few times, paddled Mavericks, paddled obviously Nazare a lot, because that was one of the stops on the tour. So yeah, I think I know obviously that the thing is that the tow waves do get the attention, but really it's only more recently when the paddle tour like disintegrated and just got cancelled, or that the more focus has been on towing, back when we first started surfing big waves, I had one tow board.
Yeah.
For the biggest days.
Yeah.
And everything you paddled the whole time, and then when it was really, really big, then you towed. And I could probably count the amount of tow sessions that I had in a year on my hand, like.
And do you feel now more recently it's towing more than paddling?
Well, Nazare definitely, like, as I've got older, and I think now I think it's it's really unfortunate now with like the tour not being around and the sort of the big wave scene being sort of there's no real direction for people to focus on.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing really is the tow invitational at Nazare.
Yeah.
And it is an invitational, and like I don't even know how you get invited to do it really, but so people are sort of more focused on towing, and to get good at towing, and you have to just tow more, and you have to try different boards, and I think it's just going through a phase at the minute where that's all people want to do is just tow around, and it's a lot of fun, but also it becomes a different sport. Yeah. It is a completely different sport.
Yeah. I can imagine that the capability of being able to handle yourself out there when you're paddling and paddle into the waves, and the physical exertion of that.
It's completely different, man.
Yeah.
Like when you back when those first few years, like the first 4 or 5 years at Nazare, like I didn't even own a ski at Nazare until 2019. I don't think. So I was borrowing skis and borrowing equipment, and you would only borrow it on the biggest days, and then you didn't have a ski, so you'd paddle from the town, you paddle around, you get one wave, and you do the loop, and that's how it was.
And that's a long distance for those that don't know Nazare, over from where the town is, with the big bluff in the middle and the cliff.
Yeah.
So,
and that's and that was the focus, But the thing is that unfortunately, like the media and just focused on the biggest days, and that was always the tow days, so they weren't really interested in small days.
I don't know if many people that surf don't know about that incredible wipeout that you had back in 2017. But for those that don't, check it out on the video. We might better post a little clip, a little bit just during this. But you were towing in Nazare, and a wave landed on you. And I remember watching it and thinking, I have never seen anyone being exploded into the sky as high as that. Okay. For those that are listening and those that are watching, are you able to talk about in terms of what happened to it, what that experience felt like, and what were the consequences?
Yeah, I get asked that a lot, and
I'm sure you do.
it's funny, like to push big wave tow surfing, and like it's not like it's not like maybe like hitting the half pipe where you build into a trick, or like, but it's always the same. It stays still, and you're talking about waves that move. Every wave's different. Nazare especially is like every wave, the way it hits the canyon and refracts and rebounds off the cliff, and every wave's so different. But you want to, like, as an athlete, big wave athlete, you want to, especially if you're towing, like, you want to be pushing that. And my goal was always to, and it still is, like, I want to ride waves deep. I want to get barreled. I want to look at a wave and be excited at my surfing, rather than looking thinking, oh, I could have done something different. And that day I just read a wave wrong. I was trying to get barreled, and I went too low, and I just read the wave really badly, and I paid that price, and the price was the wave breaking on me and me getting catapulted into the flats, which was extremely painful.
Yeah.
And ended up with a compression fracture in my back, but it's just part of it. It's part of
Everybody
surfing,
that does that in that big wave arena is going to at some point come across those sort of
like that
those
was, do you
situations.
know what, like, it was funny, like it made, like, it was definitely painful, and there was some huge lows, and it was a long time to come back, but it was, like, I've had so many injuries surfing big waves, and it was just one of many, I don't even think it's the worst one. I think the year later I broke my ACL at a big wave paddle contest in Spain, and that was way more painful and way more traumatic. But no one knows about it because it was on a paddle. There you go. It was on a paddle event
and it wasn't
in 20
publicized as much,
and it wasn't publicized. And I think that's it. Like, as surfers, like, I think that's the thing. Like, not everything, it depends how it gets promoted or publicized.
Social media pushes certain things to become viral when other things might just have been as gnarly and they're never seen.
For sure. Yeah.
So you had to go through a whole process of rehab and training from there. After that and recovery, am I right? You kind of teamed up with Matt Knight and Taz and Peony. They've got a catamaran, and I watched a documentary about you trying to find a wave out in Ireland, an elusive big wave spot. And I know that when I watched it, which was an incredible documentary I watched, have you ever actually scored it at the biggest that it can get since then, or in a time that hasn't been documented?
We surfed it pretty good. I've surfed it a few times since.
Yeah.
And we've surfed it pretty good, but I don't think not as big as we can get it. I think we can get it bigger.
Yeah.
But there's so many good waves. There's so many good waves everywhere. Like, and it's just time and tide and right swell and right wind direction. I think that's the exciting thing about surfing, and especially big wave surfing, is that it's not like something you can just mark down on a diary and put in a schedule and know that it's going to be there. It's everything has to align, but also it has to align with being with the right people and the right team, and also capturing it in the right way as well, because like nowadays that's just as important as surfing it.
So do you spend a lot of time studying the forecast on Surfline and looking at those swells across the globe and trying to get ahead of those as they're travelling in?
This year and going forward, I'm sort of more focused on Europe. I sort of, in the past, I have sort of spent time looking at the swells in the Pacific and trying to score different spots, but it's just too expensive, like, and it's just not really, for me personally, it's not really where it's at. I think we have so much to offer, or the ocean has so much to offer on our doorsteps, like, and it's trying to like make the most of what we have here rather than like chasing. I think you can be on an endless chase, and I think as surfers, you get sucked. Like you just get sucked into it, like always like looking to the next thing, like. And sometimes it's like I sort of figured out last year that maybe I need to slow down a little bit and make the most of what we have here.
That's wise words, Andrew. Yeah. That kind of classic surf trip when you're younger and you turn up to one spot, it looks okay, but there's a spot down the coast, and you get back in the car and you drive on. It's like that, and you're kind of relating that to big waves.
Yeah, for sure. But I think also like now with like the forecasts and the you've got like the 14-day forecast, and then you got all like social media and the webcams. It's like you can never be happy with where you are. You can always feel like you need to be somewhere else or need to be going somewhere else. And
helicopter coming past. Sorry for the noise if you hear that, but it's the big
yes.
Coast Guard one. Hopefully everyone's okay. We will wait till that passes by.
But yeah, so I don't know, like, and I think that's the thing is that's what as surfers, and as it's growing, like you look at social media, like this year I didn't even I didn't post any on social media for like 2 months or 3 months. I can't remember how long it was, but just because you get sucked into like thinking you should be somewhere else, and you're not present and not appreciating what you're doing, and or feeling you're not doing enough, or I don't know.
Yeah, our world is very much governed now by that kind of almost jealousy of what you see people in their world of social media. And if you step away from that, you really do start to take a note of how lucky we are. You live in North Devon, I live in North Cornwall. We're blessed for the coastline we live on.
Yeah.
And we get great waves. And how good has this winter been? It's just been great, fun waves. The weather's been good. It's been awesome.
Yeah.
Is there anywhere, although we're talking about wanting what other people, is there an elusive big wave out there that you've yet to be able to get to just because it's not lined up, that you still want to tick off on your list?
Like I would still like to, at some point before I'm too old or not capable, is go to Shipstern's Bluff, like the right-hander. So that's that's a sort of a goal of place to get to, and maybe Tahiti as well.
Yeah.
But like, I still feel that there's still a lot to do in Europe, like as well.
Yeah.
So,
and master those before perhaps reaching out to some of the other areas. If you ever can truly master some of these waves.
No, but it's not about mastering. Like I don't think you ever master anything, but it's just like having the opportunity to score them.
Yeah. So you're a father like I am. If your children turned around and said they'd like to get into big wave surfing, would you want them to follow in your career in terms of moving in that direction as well?
Or just getting getting the kids in the sea is hard enough as it is. I don't want to surf big waves, but yeah, I just, as far as like just trying to get the children outdoors and
Thank you. Just had a volleyball invade into our set.
Just trying to get them anything. If they whatever they want to do, if it involves sport or outdoors, like I'm all for it.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what it is. Like, and to be honest, like, like I've never really been much of a surf, like surf dad or a soccer dad or whatever you want to call it. But just trying to motivate them and give them the opportunities to be active.
You're absolutely right. As I look around, there's loads of kids here in front of us. We've got sandcastles, we've got holes, we've got people playing badminton. There's a volleyball just rolled in, and I actually can't see a kid on the screen.
Yeah, and that's like because that's it. Like it's good to just get people outdoors and get the kids outdoors. Like it's so important.
we've had a really good opportunity to get behind kind of like your mentality and getting into those big wave surfing. We've had a load of fresh-faced, brand new para surfers coming down to our Adaptive Roadshow today, and you're supporting Salt Rock. What would you like to say perhaps to either some of our young surfers who are perhaps disabled or have learning difficulties who can access this opportunity? What would you say to them about getting involved with surfing?
Oh, that's such a good question. Like, I don't know, like connecting with it, being like doesn't really matter about the waves, and it's just being in the ocean and being outdoors and just like, and I think that if I think back to all, like I've caught, you know, obviously thousands and thousands of waves over the years, but sometimes some of the moments that I remember the most is just literally like a sunrise or like a moment, and it's not a wave, it's just being in the ocean and looking around and appreciating it. And I think it's about feeling good and feeling, you know, being in the moment. And so yeah, just enjoy that. And then all the good stuff happens naturally. You'll get the wave you want. You'll get that buzz, and you know, like, and you'll want to get another one. And but really, it is just about getting outdoors and being in the ocean.
It's certainly been therapy for both you. It's been therapy for me. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you on Off the Lip. Thank you, Andrew. And I hope that your career continues and you do reach that 100-foot wave, which you are. It's elusively not yet there, but it will be there. And I cannot wait to hear when you do. Yeah, all the best for this next winter, no doubt, as we move into the summer season this year. And I hope you do make that world record with your name on it one day.
Thank you, man. Cheers.
All right.
Cheers.
I've been running from the wind. I can feel the darkness creeping in.
I'm Martin Ray, and I'm your host of Off the Lip, brought to you by Surfing England, the national governing body of surfing in England. Thank you to the Caravan and Motorhome Club, our headline sponsor, and to Mora Media House for creating these podcasts.